Welcome to Devoted to a Soldier Resource Panel. And today I am here with two awesome guys. And I totally forgot. Hold on. Because we were talking. This is what we're here about. The Warrior's Book of Virtues. And these two gentlemen. So here's the deal. There's the funny guy and the serious guy. And you will soon find out who I have categorized as the funny guy and the serious guy.
Oh boy.
So there will be a test at the end. But before we get right into it, tell us a little bit about who you are. And Matt, sorry, you're in the hot seat because that's who I see first.
Hey, I got on first and I'm still in the hot seat. That's kind of messed up. So, hey, I'm Matt Bloom. I currently live in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area. Currently work in law enforcement as a detective. Worked in the VA healthcare system for about 11 years, police officer, social worker, 8 years in the Marine Corps with Buzz. He was our corpsman, our chief corpsman out of Fallujah. And right now we're here talking to you, having a good time.
All right. Whoa, back up the bus. Buzz, you were in charge?
For a little bit. It just depended. There were certain things that I was allowed to be in charge of and certain things that they said, don't tell them there's an ops brief or anything like that. Just tell them to get in the vehicle at this time and we'll go. So.
Okay, good. Woo! All right. Which leads us to who Buzz is. So
I'm not worried about messing up because Danny initially started and she had to, get out of the screen and all that good stuff. So I'm Buzz Bryan. I currently live, and I feel like I'm like crooked in this camera here. I want to make sure you can see my foo-foo candles in the background over there. But so anyway, Buzz Bryan. I currently live in Jupiter, Florida. I'm originally from Philly. I was born and raised there. So yeah, I'm a long-suffering Philadelphia sport fan. I don't have the venom that comes with being a Philadelphia sports fan. Maybe I did a few years back, but as I'm starting to get older and probably get through puberty and maybe hit a little bit of maturity.
You're getting up there, Buzz. You're getting up there. I don't know.
I mean, I turned 50 this year. I still remember my father, and I know I'm off course already. Still remember my dad saying, boy, you'll be lucky to make 18 years old. So every time I see him, I'm like, well, 18 and 18 is 36. So I've almost like tripled. So I'm doing well.
You're good.
Good. And I'm still here and I'm not in federal prison and I have a job and all that good stuff. And I didn't get kicked out of the military. So I spent 22 years active duty in the military. Got to serve, the majority of my time on the dark side with the Marines, which was the greatest, really the greatest honor. In all seriousness, the best honor and greatest honor I could have. And even better to serve in combat with them and see some of our young, and not just Marines, soldiers as well, but I work directly with Marines, do things that were just insane to me at such a young age and make decisions that, would affect them for the rest of their lives and going forward. So really awesome. I loved it. Retired, started working for the VA healthcare system in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which was awesome. Pittsburgh's a great city. I mean, it catches a lot of rap. It catches a bad rap. It's no longer like,
really? Like,
you feeling okay, buddy?
I would be like, oh man, I want to go to Pittsburgh. Like that is where I am gonna vacation.
Well, I don't know that I would vacation there, but I mean, it's no longer that steel city where you go there and the sky's orange and there's soot and it's dirty. That's all gone. It's artsy now and it's been a renaissance with restaurants and it's actually really, really pretty cool. I mean, and cost of living is great. So I spent about 11 years there as working with, we can get into all this, but working with soldiers, sailors, everyone that was seriously injured or seriously ill, coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. And it turned out to be a great job. After I served with Matt, I got to work with Matt again in that.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. How did that happen? Because I was fascinated as I'm sitting here and I was, started reading the book and everything. And I was like, you guys work together? Like, you like each other that much? You follow each other? Bromance? Like, how does that happen?
First, let me say I'm glad this is recorded. So Buzz saying Pittsburgh is an amazing city is forever there. I mean, he can't take it back.
Can I interrupt you and just let you know that anybody, all my Philly people will be like, you know what, are you out of your mind? Really?
Yeah, guaranteed. We honestly didn't know. I got out in 06 and you retired early
July
07,
of 07.
right?
July
Yeah.
of 07.
And he started at the VA, I think May or June, right?
June
and,
of 07. I double dipped for 1 month, Danny.
Yeah, I ran into him.
Is that like, can you do that? Is that allowed?
I was burning leave, so it was cool. I was getting paid by the military, one more paycheck, and paid by the VA, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah, so I actually ran into Buzz at my orientation. I was like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "Well, what are you doing here?" And I was a cop at the time, and he was one of the transition patient advocates. And then once I went back to grad school, got my degree, I worked in the same. Well, Buzz's program kind of went through several transition periods, but we ended up in the same clinic for post 9/11 veterans, and we worked there. Was it 5 years together?
Yeah,
basically, yeah. So it was crazy. We had no idea that we were all going to the VA. So it was pretty wild.
I love that because I'm such a believer. If you listen to me for 2 hot seconds, I'm like, things are perfectly placed. God does not make mistakes. And when I hear like moments like this, I'm like, yes, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Like that is some seriously perfectly placed lines of life, which, which moves me into, how do you write a book with more than one person?
It's not easy.
Well, let me tell you. First of all, I didn't want any parts of this book, and I hate to admit that now because I just thought I was just like, this is going to be hard. I mean, it's like I was just like, I don't know how to write a book. I don't know how to like put words into, sentences that make sense and this and that and and I kept avoiding it. Like the other author who worked with us, Nick Bennis, who had already written a book, which amazed me because we served in Iraq with him too, and I was like, dude, you were like a moron. And I hate to say, and I mean that with love.
All three of us are morons.
You're the most moronic genius I know.
I'm like, what do you mean you wrote a book about? And it was like mental health emergencies, and I'm like, how? I'm like, you have no education on this or experience. How did you do this? And who published it? And then I got it. I read it. And I was like, wow, it actually makes sense. Holy whatever. And so I kept avoiding him. And then I think it was finally Matt called me and said, hey, Doc, you're going to stop being a clown and help us out. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's Matt, you tell her how we did it.
It was one big Google Doc, honestly.
Really?
Nick had sent the book out, his first book to Buzz and I, Mental Health Emergencies. And Nick ended up at the VA in Portland, Oregon. And we're like, dude, what are you doing at the VA in Portland? What are you like? Because he's from Connecticut and he's traveled all over the place.
He's from up there, yeah.
Yeah. And so I read the book and I'm like, we got to do something military related. He's like, send me info. I was like, whatever, dude. Like, you're a moron. This isn't going to work. Whatever. Thanks for blowing smoke. And, I was telling Buzz about it because we work together daily. And he bugged. And I finally put together some material. We kind of ironed things out, talked to Buzz and, added some different flavor in it. And he's like, all right, we need a table of contents and one chapter. We're like, cool. So we put together, and I started the police academy. Buzz moves to Florida.
Awesome.
He's in the police academy.
What are we doing?
All we did is one chapter, and Wade, there were no crayons involved. See, it was Google Docs.
Yeah, Google Doc. And Nick sent out to the publisher, and 3 days later, he's like, here, boys, sign this contract. He's like, we got like 3 months. I'm like, whoa, dude, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm like, 3 months to do what? How much do I have to write? Like, what am I writing about? And and it was like, we just started coming up with this stuff. And Nick, kind of, led us a little bit and, fed us as much line as he could. And and it was just like, I was like, I'm signing a contract here. Then they want my tax information. I'm like, wait a second, hold on.
This is real.
Tax now. But in all seriousness, you had taken a common factor of things that you guys were seeing, that you lived, that you were seeing, and you decided to take the action, even though you didn't want to, maybe. But there must have been something inside you that like pulled you. And then this is like, it's kind of a big deal. It's not like, hey, it's not just a self-help book or like a book about your story. There's actual tools and resources and things to apply. So what, in all seriousness, what made you go from seeing it to having this idiotic idea to actually saying like, I'm going to put my shit behind me and I'm going to do it?
We, I think living through combat, like the three of us were in Fallujah in 2004. And then all ending up at the VA, we had all seen the best of times, the worst of times, not to be cliche or anything like that. But all three of us saw what were happening with veterans after they got out of the military, after they're spending time in combat. And it was just like an uphill battle trying to help veterans help themselves. We're VA's pumping people full of medications. They want them to go to talk therapy. They're, not really helping them live their lives. I mean, you're talking about 22 and on year kids. I'm 42. I still consider myself a kid. But we didn't know how can we reach them? Like, we've seen enough and conquered enough in our small worlds. And we had all these tools that we've learned and experienced from everyone else's experiences that we've helped. Buzz is going out into the community and seeing people at complete rock bottom, the homeless shelters, people ready to take their own lives. And we wanted to get a way to put this information out there, because what good is it with us keeping it inside? Yeah. And it was around that time, Buzz and I were very frustrated. You kind of go through boot camp, you kind of live a life in the military, you learn all these things on how to conduct yourself, you get out and it's gone. And Nick wrote his book, and I think that was kind of like the spark. I'm like, well, maybe we can put this together in a book on paper so people can help themselves. And like you said, it's not a traditional self-help book. Like, you're not going to read this book and be healed. You're not going to, take a pill and be healed. There's actual steps or baby steps, Barney steps for us Marines that people can read and follow and practice on a daily basis. Instead of reading the book once, all right, read that, good, next, what do I got to do?
Right. And I think it's a book
kind of followed through with that, and here we are.
I think it's a book that can kind of stay on your nightstand, Danny, and be there every time. Like, that's how I tell people. I said, you know what? I said, take a look at the book. I said, but it's not a fictional novel. It's not like a Brad Thor book that's military fiction that you're going to read. You're going to be at the edge of your seats. I think there's concepts and there's ideas that I think can help you going forward. It doesn't mean that what worked for Buzz or what worked for Matt or Nick or whoever, you will work for you. I just know that we got to a point we were able to take a lot of our experiences. As an advocate, I saw some of our Iraq and Afghanistan veterans at their very worst and lowest. I had a lot of experiences in the community, in jails, under bridges. My partner at the time was a retired Army colonel. So like, he was the smart guy and Buzz was the dumb guy. When we would get calls from, the crisis lines, we would get called from concerned physicians and social workers saying, hey, we haven't heard from John, he's not doing, he wasn't doing well, or, can you go see him? And we would physically go visit him in his house. We would always try and make contact initially and say, hey, we're coming, because you never knew what you were going to walk into. And we were not carrying a weapon. We were not carrying anything other than, hey, it's Mutt and Jeff, it's Buzz and Bill. And, one experience that didn't make it into the book that I wanted to, but it didn't for whatever reason. We get to this house, and it's a guy who had served. He was at Abu Ghraib prison and had some combat time and had some struggles. And we get to this guy's house because he had been, avoiding treatment, avoiding his therapy, off his meds. His parents were concerned about him. So we went to see him. We're beating on his door. Nothing. There's nothing. But as we're standing on his porch, there's garlic hanging, there's squirrel tails hanging, and there's like a bucket of corn in a silver bucket. And yeah, I grew up in the city. I was like, I don't know what any of this stuff is. But anyway, I was like, so my partner's looking around, and anyway, he didn't answer the door. So we're walking away, and we notice him up in the top window. So we kind of like, hey, bud, it's Bill and Buzz, we're here from the VA. We just want to make sure you're doing okay. And of course we're in shirt and ties, we're in government vehicles. So this dude's spooked.
Yeah. So,
he thinks we're coming, I'm like, can we come in and visit you? And I'll tell you why. So he thinks, I don't know what he thinks. So anyway, he comes down to the door and he's kind of disheveled, he's disheveled a little bit. He hasn't combed his hair or shaved in quite a while. So when you walk into his house, you're walking in the house and there's like a sofa here. So we go around the sofa and there's a big, long, like dining room table or something, big wood table for whatever. I don't know, but it was a big table. So he sits at the far end, Bill sits at this end, and I'm sitting right here. And we start talking to him, just saying, hey, here's why we're here. We want to make sure you're okay. We're not here for any other reason, just to get eyeballs on you and say, hey, dude, are you all right? What's going on? Why aren't you coming to the VA? Why aren't you doing this? Did we make a mistake? Mm-hmm. If you need help, you need to know that you can contact us and we'll help you. We're not here to take you anywhere. We're not here to say you have to do this. We just want to make sure all's good. So finally he goes, he says, all right, hold on, cool. He goes, I'm glad you said that, dude, because I got to be honest with you, man. He goes, you two were not taking me anywhere. He goes, I wanted you to know that. I said, well, okay, cool. So he starts to get up, and as he gets up, he pulls his loaded 38 up, and he says, I just wanted you to know this was pointing at you the whole time. And I look at my partner. I'm like, nice. So my next impression, this is how dumb Buzz is. I look at the veteran. I say, well, listen, do me a favor. I said, if you're going to start shooting, shoot him first. I said, so this way I have a chance to get around over the sofa and get out of the house. So give me a fighting chance. Shoot him first. And we joke about it. But, he unloaded the weapon. He put the weapon away, and we were able to talk with him and just say, hey, dude, you know what? It's okay. We understand that. I can't say I understand what you're going through or what's spooking you or what's freaking you out, but, let us help you. And if you don't want to come to the VA, let's go somewhere else. I promise you, we're not going to lock you up and put you in a rubber room and whatever. I mean, and it turns out we were able to convince him to come back in and start following up his appointments. And as far as I know, now that was many years ago now. So, things worked out for him and he was doing okay. He was able to get a job. But those are the kind of things.
But isn't that like maybe one of the reasons he didn't go or so many others don't go is he's like, you are not taking me anywhere. I'm going to take you out before you go. So it's better to just stay in your own world than to have to kind of go through that experience for them.
Yeah. I mean, there's many, many stories, and Matt knows them as well. I mean, that's just one of a lot of stories from when I was advocating, and I still advocate. It's just I'm in a different role,
right?
Down here in Florida now than I was in Pennsylvania. But there's a lot of them. There's many like that, and there's still like that, and there's still so many of our guys and gals. A lot of our gals now. I mean, people don't realize a lot. We have so many female veterans now that are struggling. But they're starting to utilize the VA. I mean, it's our highest. It's the number one growing number that we're seeing. I mean, and they're finally starting to come in and talk to us and utilize our services and how we can help them. So,
well, I think the book. I'm sorry, Dave. The book. I think the book is like an extension of what we were doing. We couldn't get them to come to the VA or another outside hospital, so. We're sending Buzz out. We're making phone calls. We're trying to do telehealth and video conferencing, which was in that was early stages back then. So now, like the book, dude, here's the book. You can practice this stuff at home. You don't have to come in, see a psychiatrist and therapist, or sit in a rubber room and all this other kind of stuff. Like this is healthy stuff that you can practice at your own home, at your own pace, whenever you want.
Yeah. Well, it's about living proactive, right? And you have a book that's basically like one of my taglines is you have to live proactive. You got to do something every single day. It doesn't matter what it is, but you have to be applying something into your life. Healthy eating, exercise, reading something or listening to something. If you don't want to read, you have to do something to move yourself forward. So a book like this is perfect because I feel like I haven't gone all the way through it, but it is something you can just kind of open and be like, okay, what am I going to take away right here from this chapter?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
and is that how you wanted it to, so people could just like use it repeatedly? Because you read it once and you get one concept from it, and you read it again and you're like, oh, because you're reading it in a different place.
Yeah, I mean, Travis, when we talk to Travis, by the way, he's a regular on your show all the time. I see this.
Travis is my man. He's on here, and he said he learned something new every time he reads it. Like Travis, look, hello, this is his shirt.
No, I have one. I didn't think about it, but I picked for the other guys, but I have them as well because I was like, dude, I gotta get one of these shirts. But yeah, I mean, Travis, he put it perfectly like that. He's like, dude, every time I take a look at it, I find something. I learn something out about like temperance or prudence or resilience or whatever, and I'm like. Well, I'm glad. I'm happy because, like I said, initially, I joke about it all the time because it's just my personality. But yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad to hear people, say that. And I think a lot of people, I didn't even know who would buy the book. That was one of the things that we all talked about. We're like, who are we gearing this? Are we gearing this to?
Should we tell her what our goal was?
Yes.
Our goal was one person that we didn't know to buy the book.
My goal was one person that I didn't know to buy the book and give us a good review, or even if it was a negative review. Just one person. But I mean, what we found, and from reviews and from a lot of the Facebook comments, and so it was, they were older adults, they were younger adults. It really, there was no genre, there was really no specific. Population that was looking at the book. I mean, so I guess that's a good thing. I mean, somebody's looking at it, somebody's reading it.
Yeah. Now, when you were kind of going through it together and you got to go back and forth, so I'm assuming there was feedback involved and you're putting things, back and forth, ideas and stuff. Did you find that your life changed a little bit, or your concept of living changed a little bit as you were writing, like you grew?
Yeah, me specifically. You're writing this out, and you honestly, there's a tiny bit of you that's like, man, I'm a hypocrite, because realistically, no one's perfect. It's impossible. Last perfect man on the earth, they crucified on a cross. And you're reading this stuff, and not only did your life change, but I forgot a lot of this, and it was just like second nature. I was writing it out. I'm like, why haven't I been doing this? And like I said, I was in the police academy at the time, which was already structured even more than everyday life. And I was like, man, this is so much easier if I would have been doing X, Y, and Z. So it just kind of opened my eyes. I'm like, I myself personally forgot a lot of the information that we were writing down. And, because when, service members get together, we talk about the old days, we bust chops. We talk about stuff that we did that was stupid and all that kind of stuff. But we all came back partially okay. I mean, we're still a little screwed up in the head, but we remembered what got us through those times, and now we put a pen to paper.
Yeah. I got sidetracked by the finger pointing.
I was trying to point at him, and it was going the other way.
I know, right?
I agree. I think that it made you think of things like and I had gotten to a point, like Matt said, we were frustrated. Where I had gotten to a point on the job, where I was really frustrated with how things were going. I mean, and maybe I was just, losing my bearing and forgetting a little bit about how to act the right way and things that in the military I would never had done, or how, it acted. So there, you're right. There was a lot of times when I was reading this or writing it, or when we were reviewing each other's work, I'm like, oh man, I've kind of lost my bearing a lot. I've kind of lost, maybe sometimes, discipline, which, really is the basis of everything. I've kind of, at times, the things that I raised my three sons, like, here's how we're going to act, you're going to get the knife hand, bro. So, I mean, and he's right. I mean, it made you really sit back and reflect and think, you know what, maybe you've been a little bit of a jackass at times. Maybe it wasn't that guy or that gal, you know, maybe it was you, you know,
Yeah.
maybe you need to reflect a little bit.
It's very easy to get jaded in this line of work. I mean, social work, police work, you know, any kind of helping service. It's so easy to get jaded, but then that causes you to lose track of what the right thing is.
Well, you lose track of the reality that you have wanted for yourself, right? You get complacent in every day, and you forget that you're a God-loving, God-fearing, purposeful person.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and you said complacency, and think about that. So every time, you know, the entire time you're deployed in a hot zone, I mean, there's complacency kills, and you forget that, and then you just, you know, so you'll flash back to certain things, or you'll see something that makes you realize and think, you know, I lost it a little bit there. I mean, it's, you know, I've used it with my middle son, had some struggles with some stuff, and I found myself flashing back and using some military things about, you know, hey, you know, if you're in this circumstance or this situation, you know, in the military, you know, when we got hit by an IED, it was like, all right, you got to push through the kill zone. You got to get out. We got to keep going forward. You know, everything's here. We're all intact. I got everything. I'm okay. Driver's okay. Matt, you know, VC's okay. Let's get out of here. Let's push through. And, you know, so yeah, I mean, it really did.
And so now that you have this, I mean, do you find yourself applying either the stuff in your own book, or have you've just changed and you're looking for all kinds of new resources to not have complacency come back into your life and keep that evolution of growth going?
I think I'm more aware and taking notice of what other people are doing. I wouldn't say I was closed, but you know, I kind of just focused on my own life, my own responsibilities, and what I was doing. But now I'm reading more. I'm watching more podcasts. I'm listening to other people because I want to absorb all this information. Like, hey, we got this book now, but what is everyone else doing? What's working for them? So it's kind of actually got me more engaged with external resources than I was. That's for sure.
Yeah, you know, and I think too, like even me, like I had kind of, you know, when I retired, I was kind of like, hey, listen, I'm out. You know, I'm done. You know, I'm hanging it up. You know, everything's going in my Foot Locker, and that's it. You know, I'm not going to be part of it. And I don't know why, but it was just, you know, kind of, you know, why I had taken that approach. I mean, I don't know if I was aggravated or frustrated or what, but I was ready to pop smoke, get out, punch out of the hatch, and just, and start on whatever it was I was going to do, which I had no idea. But you're right. You know, now I'm, you know, geez, I retired in 2007. So it's been, you know, how long's it been now? I can't do the math.
13 years, buddy.
13 years. So, I mean, 13 years later, I mean, you know, and almost 16 years later from, you know, one of the, you know, some of the scariest part of my life in Fallujah. You know, I look back and I reflect more, but you're right. I find myself paying more attention to other veterans and guys and gals who are successful and what they're doing. And, you know, I had never been on Facebook until I got to South Florida, because when I got here and got into this job, you know, I was like, you know, how do I reach the veteran population? Not the older veterans or the more seasoned veterans, because they're everywhere down here. Yeah. The veterans of my era, you know, we'll say post 9/11, you know, how do I find these guys and girls? Where are they? I keep hearing, you know, I get all this data analysis and I see all these studies that say, oh, they're in Palm Beach County. And I don't know if they are or not, because it's, you know, it's not cheap to be in Palm Beach County. You know, where do I find these guys? So I got on Facebook and I started joining, you know, South Florida Veterans, Indian River, Next Generation, all these groups, and just paying attention to what they were doing. Not necessarily, you know, being active in the clubs, just kind of paying attention and meeting guys and gals and the Wade Waddicks of the world and the Phils of the world that are down there doing amazing things. Yeah. You know, that's gotten me more involved. I mean, there are guys and gals that are doing just awesome things that I think to myself, like, damn, why didn't I think of that? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Blows my mind how cool so many people are, and that like you come across their path and you're like, yeah, I live in that world every day.
There's a part of the book where, you know, about charitable things. And, you know, I think we talk a little bit about Toys for Tots and this and that. And it's not even just about that, you know, like, and I don't want to bring up Phil and Wade and I don't want to pimp them a little bit, but what they do is so charitable.
A little bit. I mean, you are their bitch right now. You are there on their stuff. Come on now.
I want them to know that. So, I mean, what they do, like, and even like Wounded Veterans Relief Fund and, you know, what they do for our veterans. I mean, it is absolutely amazing. It's veteran driven. Almost everything they do is to give back.
Yeah.
How can I help someone today? How can I make someone feel better? You know, we talked about Angelo briefly before we came on. Angelo will tell you straight up that Wade and Phil saved his life.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll tell you straight, and that is an awesome, powerful thing. You know, the chief medical officer that I worked with in Pittsburgh one time did an interview with CNN, and they asked, one of the interview questions was, tell me about someone that has done something at the VA. And I don't remember the exact question. And his response was, and this is not to pimp me because I disagree with the statement wholeheartedly. He said that Buzz Bryan had probably single-handedly had saved more lives in Western Pennsylvania in the veteran community than anybody he knew of. Now, I think that's crazy, but he's a very intelligent man. And I think back at that, and I think how powerful that is. And the work that we did, and I include Matt and me and Jason Minrich, who's still there in the front lines fighting these battles. Mm-hmm. You know, it's amazing. I mean, and there's a lot of frustrating days. I mean, it really is. But you know, what our veterans are doing is unbelievable.
Yeah. And it's like the collaboration. It's the collaboration of all of them, right? It's kind of that's what it is. It's not just you. It's not just them. It's everybody coming together and using the resources and gifts that God gave us to better humanity. Right. And I feel like that kind of encompasses your book of what you did, why you did it, and your personalities. All right there.
I mean, think about, you know, the goofiness, but it's just, you know, you're exactly right. They utilize their personalities. They make fun of themselves. And they.
I'm talking about you too.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's, you know, you know how much makeup and stuff goes on and hair gels in this to. But I mean, it's.
I think you need a cut, bro.
Yeah, I'm a little bit long there.
It's all right. We'll let it pass. But you guys, you're awesome. I was so excited when I was introduced to you. And then because, you know, you talk to people through Facebook and things like that, but then you get time to actually get to know them, know what they're doing, find out a little bit, like read the words behind them. And I appreciate you guys coming on, doing what you do, sharing with the world. And if no one has gotten this, grab it. And I think, you know what, because I kind of have it in my drawer next to where I sit and, you know, I pull things out and read it. I'm sitting on it, you know, that drawer down there. It's under my arse every day. But I think I like your idea of putting it by the nightstand, you know, because I hate like we refuse to watch the news, like, especially before I go to bed. I'm like, I cannot even, I have a hard time sleeping to begin with. Can you imagine the chaos that would go in my mind? But this is a good bedtime night. Just read a couple of pages or a chapter, whatever.
Yeah. Or it'll put you to sleep.
Or it'll put me to sleep. Either way, it's a win-win.
Right. Absolutely.
Therapy or a full night's sleep. I love it. You guys are great. Is there anything else you want to say to the world before we sign off for the night?
World's a big venue. Holy goodness.
It is a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure here.
No, hey, just pick up the book, read it for what it is. You know, we're not the smartest people on the face of the earth, but I think we put together a good product. And if you can't get one thing out of this, then maybe maybe you're just too close to understand, but you'll be able to take one thing out of this book. And I think it'll be a positive note and it can change your life.
Yeah, and I agree with that, and I won't, you know, hold us up any longer. I think like the way the book is set up and how you can go through the situations in the 9 lines, which are all military things. It's not. You don't have to be a military. You don't have
Right.
to be someone who served in the military or a veteran to understand it. I think that's really one of the great things about the book. You don't have to have that background. It's not just a book that's specific to someone who served in the military. It's not, and it's not a couple military guys saying, you know what, you got to do this. If
Right.
you do that, you know, you're going to be all right. You're going to be successful, because I've probably failed at more things than I've succeeded. So, you know, take a look at it. If not, send me a Facebook message and I'll send you one.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
There we go. You guys are awesome. So the pop quiz, you can write it in the comments. Who's the funny guy? Who's the serious one?
He's both. Buzz is very serious
Don't
and very humorous. Very serious guy.
All wrapped up into one. But you guys are awesome. And to everybody out there, join some sort of a table. I'm Italian. I eat, I drink. That's how I give my love to everybody. So pick one, pick many, and have a great night. We will see you later. Take care.
thank you.